So you're headed to Juneau, Alaska, and you're trying to figure out what to do in this landlocked city in southeast Alaska. And in this video, I'm going to share my top 5 recommendations for your time in Juneau. Whether you're coming off the cruise ship for a short window of time, or you have a few days to explore the city, this video is for you. So let's get into it. My name is Matt Zeffi. I make videos about exploring the outdoors, adventuring, different gear reviews, and things of that nature. And I actually lived in Juneau years back, and it was one of my absolute favorite places that I've ever been to, and definitely that I've ever lived in. And I've been back ever since, and still it holds the title for just one of those very special places. But because of how much time I've spent there, I've acquired a good idea of some of the best things to do there, some of the best places to go. Can't really weigh in that much on where to eat because I don't have great taste when it comes to restaurants, if I'm being honest, so this won't really cater to that. But as far as excursions and different places to visit, places to find wildlife, I definitely have a good sense of those locations and what to do when you're actually going to Juneau. A few things to know about Juneau before we get started. Juneau is a landlocked city, and that just means that the only way to get there is by boat or by plane. You can drive within the city, but you can't drive out of the city or in the city because the road comes to a pretty abrupt stop, and that's basically the end of it. So if you had to go somewhere else, and people in Juneau often have to do that, they have to fly or they have to take the ferry. What's really funny is the transportation between different southeastern little cities in Alaska is that it's all an excursion in itself. If you fly from this place to this place, it's just so amazingly scenic. Even if you take the ferry, it's just an incredible experience. The population of Juneau is around 30,000 people, and in the summertime it jumps up to around 35,000. And you know, with the amount of people coming off the cruise ships, it definitely gets even more just packed in the downtown area. So it's always exciting when you're able to get out of the downtown area and explore a little bit more of the surrounding areas, whether it be the valley area or even Douglas Island. Douglas Island is the island that's adjacent to Juneau, and right in between is the Gastineau channels. That's where cruise ships will come in from, or where you kind of fly in between if you fly into Juneau. And Douglas Island has kind of a lot of stuff on there as well. There's not a ton of people, but some people that work downtown live in Douglas. And there's just one bridge that connects the two, and last I heard they were trying to put another bridge from the valley to Douglas Island, so that way you don't have to drive all the way around. But nevertheless, the bridge is also really scenic, and there's like a little whale statue that they put in right nearby there as well. And Douglas Island is home to Juneau residents. It also has Eagle Crest Ski Area, which is really beautiful as well, and there's some parks nearby and some other just amazing spots. There's places that people picnic along the coast there, where you can get a nice view of the Mendenhall Glacier, and also we've had multiple different bonfires and beaches along there as well. There's also Mendenhall Valley, and this is really the area where most of the residents live. The weather patterns could be a little different here, and this is where the glacier actually is. One of the absolute best parts about Juneau, Alaska is, of course, the Mendenhall Glacier. This is one of the most famous glaciers in the world, and it's one of the most accessible glaciers in North America. It's absolutely beautiful, surrounded by gorgeous mountain peaks all around it, and there are multiple ways to get there, whether you're going for a short window of time or staying for multiple days. But in my opinion, one of the best ways has to be the canoe tours to Mendenhall Glacier. Liquid Alaska Tours actually runs 1 or 2 of these tours, and what's really fantastic about this is you get the full experience. You're paddling across the Mendenhall Lake, and it's just, the guides are fantastic, and it's such an incredible experience. And it's really fun because you actually get the chance to paddle, and depending on the tour, you get to land just by the glacier and do a little bit of hiking as well. But to turn that corner and see the Mendenhall Glacier just so relatively close to you at a certain safe distance, and a bunch of icebergs kind of floating that recently calved off the glacier around you, is just one of the most spectacular experiences. However, that is a longer tour, so that's going to take up most of the day if you're coming off a cruise ship or whatnot. So let's say you don't have the time, or let's say you aren't particularly keen on canoeing. Well, in that case, then you could also just go to the Mendenhall Glacier Visitor Center, which is another option. You could take a bus tour there. That way you could do a little bit of exploring on your own. There's the Visitor Center to go to, and also you can go to Nugget Falls, which is a short hike, and you get a beautiful view of the glacier as well. Actually, when you go towards Nugget Falls, you sort of lose that view because it's behind a mountain. But Nugget Falls in itself is a beautiful place to see, and it's just this massive, massive waterfall that always amazes me every time I go. Moving on to number 2, another major recommendation for Juneau because it is truly a world-class destination for whale watching. So getting out there on one of those excursions to go whale watching is sure to impress. Obviously, nothing is guaranteed on these tours, so that's something to mention. But the whale watching tours I definitely would recommend. There are a ton of humpback whales that are coming up north for the season, and you also have the opportunity to potentially see orcas, sea lions, bald eagles, and porpoises. I've taken whale watching tours in Juneau probably around 15 times at this point, and it always is, it's like still very exciting to me. Anytime I even see a humpback whale, I think is also really amazing. I've still never seen a whale breach, but maybe one day. Next is definitely Mount Roberts. Mount Roberts is the mountain that's immediately on the right of downtown Juneau, so it's the one that the tram actually goes up to, and it's the one that I would recommend if you were able to, is taking the hike. So you actually have to go up, I think it's Gold Street, and that's right where I used to live, and I used to commute up and down there for work every single day. And if you just go up to the right over this little wooden bridge, then you'll find the trailhead for Mount Roberts, and it's really a beautiful trail, lush forest on the way up, and then when you make it to the top, just incredible views up there. And I think the whole mountain, if you were to go to the very top, is like 4,000 feet-ish. So you probably don't need to do the entire thing. But they also have I believe there's like a little restaurant and coffee shop up top as well. So you'll see a lot of people coming off the tram once you've done all your hard work hiking up there. And if you don't want to do the hike, of course you can take the tram. It has gotten a little bit more expensive over the years, but it's definitely still a really scenic option. But the hike is also extremely beautiful and obviously the more cost-effective option. If you're going in the early springtime, you're definitely going to have snow up there as well, alpine wildflowers, and a whole bunch of different things. Just one of my favorite hikes, and I definitely recommend checking it out. Highly controversial here, but I think that if you're a tourist in Juneau, it's probably cool to visit the Red Dog Saloon. This is like the main saloon slash bar that's in downtown Juneau, and it's got this like old time feel. I'm not entirely sure how original it is. I believe it's original, and it's got like sawdust on the floor. Definitely a very touristy area, but still a cool visit nonetheless. It's got incredible history from the Gold Rush era, and that's one of the most interesting parts about the history of Juneau is that Gold Rush history. There's like a ton of mines around Juneau, and it's just really fascinating to see. Last but not least, this one's probably more so if you're in Juneau for a few days, because you're going to need a car to actually get to it. And that's because it's about 25 miles north of Juneau on that one road, and that is Eagle Beach. And this is an absolute beautiful beach that many of the locals often go to. The sunsets here are absolutely incredible, and you get a beautiful view of the Chilkat mountain range in the distance. And there's always bald eagles here and different species of birds as well. It's just one of those like off the beaten path options that I always love visiting whenever I go to Juneau. And it's just really peaceful. There's not a ton of people. You can picnic in the area. I believe there's even a campground nearby as well. Alright, I've got a few bonus ones because there's a lot more to Juneau as well, so I'm going to just throw these out there. If you have more time, Perseverance Trail, which is right near Mount Roberts Trailhead, that has a ton of waterfalls and different, it's just an incredible hike, honestly, overall, so I definitely recommend checking out Perseverance Trail. And adjacent to that is actually the old mining museum. That is a really cool museum to check out. You can see all of the mining operations that used to happen there. They have all the original machinery and everything, and that's literally right next to downtown Juneau, so it's not very far to get to. Well, I hope that gave you some ideas for your trip to Juneau. Let me know down in the comments below if there's anything that I missed, or if you're visiting in the future, let me know after you go, what was your favorite spot? If you end up doing any of these recommendations, I would love to hear about it. If you got anything out of this video, be sure to hit that like button and subscribe if you're new here. I've got a ton of videos coming out very much like this. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you out there on the road.